Welcome back to my channel. Today's episode 2 of A Different Beginning. What if Ash started with Charmander? Chapter 16, Beyond All Limits. The morning sun cast long shadows as Ash, Misty, and Brock prepared to leave Pewter City. The road to Cerulean City stretched ahead, winding through mountainous terrain that promised both challenges and opportunities for intensive training. "All right everyone," Ash announced, shouldering his pack. "Before we head out, we're upgrading our training regimen." He knelt beside his backpack and began removing Charmeleon's familiar weighted pouches. Misty and Brock exchanged confused glances. "I thought the weights were working well," Brock said. "Why remove them now?" Instead of answering immediately, Ash reached deeper into his pack and withdrew something that made both his companions step back in shock. The metallic casing gleamed in the morning light, but what caught their attention was how Ash physically struggled just to lift it with both hands, his muscles straining visibly, sweat beading on his forehead. "This," Ash grunted as he carefully maneuvered the device toward Charmeleon's right arm, "is the next level." The moment the weight clamped onto Charmeleon's limb, his entire arm dropped like a stone. The fire-type's eyes widened in shock as he tried and failed to lift the appendage, his whole body tilting sideways from the sudden imbalance. 10 tons per limb, Ash explained, his voice strained as he wrestled with the remaining weights. Each one required his full effort to move, his face reddening with exertion. Plus a 20-ton jacket for core conditioning. The material is specially designed, incredibly dense but compact. Each 10-ton weight fits in about 4 cubic centimeters, leaving plenty of room for upgrades as you grow stronger. Brock's jaw dropped. 40 tons total? That's the weight of a fully grown Snorlax. Times 2. And I'll be training alongside him, Ash added, strapping on his own significantly smaller but still massive weights. Even these lighter versions, 1 ton per limb, 5-ton jacket, caused his movements to become labored and deliberate. "If I'm going to push him to these extremes, I need to understand what he's going through. And I'll keep increasing your weight as soon as you get used to it," he told Charmeleon. As the final weight clicked into place, Charmeleon attempted to move and immediately toppled forward, unable to maintain his balance. Every muscle in his body strained against the incredible resistance. Even breathing seemed difficult, his chest heaving with effort. "This is insane," Misty whispered, watching Charmeleon struggle to simply stand upright. "He can't even move." Ash, now weighted down with his own crushing load, moved with labored steps to kneel beside his partner. His own breathing was heavy, sweat already beginning to form from the effort of simply walking. "I know it seems impossible right now," he said gently. "But remember when 5 pounds felt impossible? We'll build up to this, just like always." Chapter 17, The Foundation of Impossibility. The first day was brutally humbling. Charmeleon, who had been moving with lightning speed just hours before, could barely manage a single step without falling. His constant metal claw and quick attack enhancements, which had become as natural as breathing, flickered weakly and died within seconds. "Focus on breathing first," Ash coached, his own chest heaving from the effort of simply standing. "Don't try to maintain any techniques yet. Just learn to move with the weight." It took 3 hours for Charmeleon to manage 10 consecutive steps. By noon, he could walk roughly 50 meters before collapsing in exhaustion. Chansey worked overtime, her heel pulse glowing constantly as she tended to both trainer and Pokémon. "The muscle fibers are adapting faster than I've ever seen," Brock observed, his breeder training helping him assess Charmeleon's condition. "But this level of stress, are we sure this won't cause permanent damage?" "Look at his eyes," Ash replied, gesturing to Charmeleon's determined expression. "He's not suffering, he's growing. There's a difference." By the end of the first day, Charmeleon could manage nearly a kilometer before needing rest. It was progress, but Ash knew the real training hadn't even begun yet. Chapter 18, Technique Integration Hell. On the second day, Ash introduced the true challenge. "Now comes the real training," he announced as they prepared for the morning session. I want you to maintain full power metal claw constantly while carrying this weight. Charmeleon's claws flickered with metallic energy for perhaps 30 seconds before the enhancement died, his energy completely drained by the combination of crushing weight and technique maintenance. Again, Ash said simply. 20 seconds this time. Again. 15 seconds. The pattern continued for hours. Each attempt lasted slightly less time, but Ash could see Charmeleon's body learning to distribute the energy more efficiently. By midday, the fire type could maintain full power metal claw for nearly 2 minutes while walking. Now add quick attack, Ash instructed. The combination was devastating. Charmeleon managed perhaps 5 seconds of both techniques simultaneously before collapsing entirely. But Ash had expected this, he'd planned for it. This is where we separate technique from movement, he explained during their rest period. Quick attack isn't just about speed, it's about energy efficiency in motion. Metal claw isn't just about hardening, it's about molecular restructuring. We're going to break down every aspect and rebuild it from the foundation. The afternoon was spent in what Ash called static training. Charmeleon would stand perfectly still, focusing entirely on maintaining both techniques without any movement. No walking, no attacks, just pure energy control. 30 seconds. 45 seconds. 1 minute. Excellent, Ash said as Charmeleon managed 90 seconds of simultaneous technique maintenance. Tomorrow we add Earthquake. Chapter 19, The Vibration Paradigm. The third day brought a new level of complexity. Earthquake wasn't just about creating seismic waves, it was about understanding vibrational frequency and energy transmission through solid matter. Place your claws against this rock, Ash instructed, guiding Charmeleon to a large boulder. I want you to feel how the stone responds to different frequencies. Don't try to break it, try to understand it. For hours, Charmeleon practiced sending subtle vibrations through his metal claws into the rock. At first, nothing happened. Then, gradually, he began to sense the stone's internal structure, its stress points, its crystalline formation, the way energy traveled through its molecular matrix. Now maintain that frequency awareness while keeping metal claw and quick attack active, Ash commanded. The combination was extraordinary to witness. Charmeleon's claws gleamed with metallic enhancement while vibrating at frequencies that made the air around them hum. When he finally struck the boulder, it didn't just crack, it separated along perfect geometric lines, as if it had been cut by the world's most precise saw. The vibrations are disrupting molecular bonds, Rock breathed in amazement. He's not just cutting through rock, he's convincing it to come apart. But Ash wasn't satisfied with just understanding. Now we add Thunder Punch to the matrix. The fourth technique, integration, nearly broke Charmeleon's concentration entirely. Maintaining Metal Claw's molecular restructuring, Quick Attack's energy efficiency, Earthquake's vibrational frequency, and Thunder Punch's electrical conductivity simultaneously was like trying to solve 4 complex equations at once while running a marathon. Focus on the connections, Ash coached. Metal conducts electricity, use that. Vibration creates heat through friction, combine that with electrical resistance. Everything works together if you understand the relationships. Slowly, painfully, Charmeleon began to grasp the concept. His metal claws became not just hardened weapons, but complex energy conduits. The electrical current from Thunder Punch heated the metal, making it cut more efficiently. The vibrations from Earthquake created resonance patterns that disrupted molecular structures. The speed enhancement from Quick Attack made every impact devastatingly precise. When he finally achieved full integration, all 4 techniques maintained simultaneously while carrying 40 tons of weight, the effect was spectacular. A single test strike against a cliff face created a perfectly smooth tunnel 20 feet deep, the rock not shattered but precisely separated and superheated to glass-smooth perfection. "That's not possible," Misty whispered, staring at the tunnel. "Physics doesn't work that way." "Physics works exactly that way," Ash corrected with satisfaction. "We're just using more of it than most people bother to learn." Chapter 20 Plasmagenesis. With the 4 technique integration mastered, Ash turned his attention to the revolutionary fireball training. "Your compressed embers were impressive," he told Charmander during their morning session. "But now I want you to think bigger. Create the largest, hottest fireball you possibly can." Despite his exhaustion from carrying the crushing weight load, Charmander managed to produce a flame the size of a beach ball, its heat distorting the air in a 20-foot radius. "Good. Now hold it steady while I explain what we're really trying to achieve." Ash's expression grew intense with focus. "Plasma isn't just really hot fire, it's matter in its 4th state, where electrons separate from atomic nuclei. The temperature required is roughly 10,000 degrees Celsius." Brock looked alarmed. "That's hotter than lightning." "Exactly. And when plasma undergoes controlled implosion compressed into a tiny space then allowed to expand rapidly, the energy release is exponentially greater than simple combustion." Charmalander's fireball wavered as he tried to concentrate on Ash's words while maintaining the flame and his 4 technique integration. "Start by increasing the heat gradually," Ash instructed. "Don't worry about size control yet, just pure temperature. I want to see that flame turn from orange to yellow to white to blue." The process took days. Charmander would create his largest possible fireball, then slowly increase the temperature until the color began to shift. Orange to deep orange. Deep orange to yellow. Yellow to bright yellow. "The color change indicates increasing temperature," Ash explained to his fascinated companions. "When we reach blue-white, we're approaching plasma conditions." Each training session followed the same brutal pattern. Charmander would maintain his 4 technique integration while walking weighted, then create and heat fireballs until he collapsed from exhaustion. Chansey would heal him, and the cycle would immediately repeat with technique practice, pure energy control without movement. Chapter 21 The first real test. A week into their new training regimen, they encountered their first serious challenger. A confident young man with expensive equipment and a cocky attitude approached their mountain campsite. "Name's Trevor," he announced, clearly trying to impress them with his formal trainer attire and high-tech Pokédex. "I've been tracking this route for rumors about some wonder trainer, and frankly, I'm not seeing anything special. How about a battle to settle the matter?" Ash studied him carefully. Trevor had the bearing of someone used to easy victories, probably from a wealthy trainer family with access to top-tier Pokémon and equipment. "Standard rules," Ash agreed. "But I should warn you, my training methods are unconventional." Trevor laughed dismissively. "I've faced every type of unconventional training. Released from the best breeding facilities, trained by certified experts, nutritionally optimized diets. What could you possibly have that I haven't seen?" He released a primate clearly well cared for, with the muscle definition that spoke of professional training. But Ash could see the subtle signs of a Pokémon that had never been truly challenged, never pushed past its comfortable limits. "Charmander, you're up," Ash called. "Wait, stay on. No quick attack speed enhancement. No technique combinations. Pure strength only." What emerged from the Pokeball moved with deliberate, measured steps. To Trevor's eyes, Charmander looked sluggish, almost cumbersome compared to his primate's energetic bouncing. "This is going to be easier than I thought," Trevor muttered. "Primate, Fury swipes." The fighting type launched forward with impressive speed, claws extended for a devastating combo attack. What happened next defied Trevor's understanding of Pokémon battles. Charmander didn't dodge. Instead, he caught Primeape's claws with his own metal-enhanced ones, the metallic ring of contact echoing through the mountains. For a moment, the 2 Pokémon stood locked in a test of pure physical strength. Then Charmander began to squeeze. The sound of Primeape's claws cracking under pressure was audible throughout the clearing. The fighting type's eyes widened in shock as it realized its opponent wasn't just resisting, he was overpowering him through brute force alone. "Impossible!" Trevor shouted. "Primeape has trained with strength specialists. Use close combat." Primeape attempted to break free and launch a series of devastating strikes, but Charmeleon's grip was absolute. With casual ease, he lifted the struggling fighting type off the ground with one clawed hand. Metal Claw, minimum power, Ash commanded. What looked like a gentle tap from Charmeleon's free claw sent Primeape flying backward 20 feet, where it crashed into a boulder and slumped unconscious. Trevor stared in complete shock. That's, how is a fire type that strong? Primeape outweighs him by 30 pounds and has trained specifically for physical combat. Weight training, Ash replied simply. Lots and lots of weight training. As they walked away from the stunned trainer, Brock shook his head in amazement. Charmeleon's carrying 40 tons and he still overpowered a fighting type specialist in pure strength. I can barely comprehend the muscle development required for that. And we're just getting started, Ash replied, already planning the next phase of their impossible training regimen. Chapter 22 Elite Investigations. News of the impossible battle spread quickly through trainer networks, eventually reaching the highest levels of the Pokémon League. In the Elite Four chambers, an emergency meeting had been called. The reports are becoming impossible to ignore, Lance announced, spreading photographs and witness statements across the conference table. A Charmeleon that can overpower fighting-type specialists in pure strength contests. Flame temperatures approaching plasma levels. Training methods that involve weights measured in tons, not pounds. Bruno, the fighting-type specialist, studied the images with growing concern. These muscle definition photographs, they show development that should take decades to achieve. Either this trainer has discovered something revolutionary, or he's using methods that could permanently damage his Pokémon. My contacts in the field describe training sessions that last 18 hours a day, Lorelei added, her voice tight with worry. The Pokémon collapses from exhaustion repeatedly, gets healed, then immediately returns to training. It borders on abuse. Agatha cackled from her corner. Or it represents the first real breakthrough in training methodology in 50 years. Look at the results. The Pokémon is healthier and stronger than specimens twice its age. Sometimes breakthrough requires breaking conventional wisdom. The concerning element, Karen interjected, is the escalation pattern. Each report shows increased intensity, increased power output, increased extremes. Where does it end? Lance stood and walked to the window overlooking Indigo Plateau. I've made a decision. I want direct observation. Karen, I'm assigning you to make contact with this trainer. Assess his methods firsthand, determine if intervention is necessary. And if his methods are legitimate but dangerous to conventional training paradigms. Karen asked. Then we learn from them, Lance replied grimly. But carefully. Very carefully. Meanwhile, in his private office, Giovanni was having a very different conversation. Executive Proton failed to capture either the Railu or the trainer, he told his Persian, studying intelligence reports with keen interest. But his description of the battle capabilities suggests power levels that exceed most of my strongest operatives. He pressed a button on his desk communicator. Send Executive Ariana to monitor this situation personally. If conventional recruitment fails, we may need to consider alternative approaches. Chapter 23 Professor Oak's Concern. In Pallet Town, Professor Oak paced his laboratory with growing unease. The reports crossing his desk painted a picture that both excited and alarmed him as a researcher. Gary, he called to his grandson, who was reviewing his own training progress. What do you make of these developments with young Ash? Gary Oak looked up from his notes, his expression complex. The results are undeniable, Gramps. But the methods? He shook his head. I've been training intensively for months, and my strongest Pokémon couldn't match what these reports describe from his Charmeleon. That's not what concerns me, Oak replied, pulling up energy readings on his computer. Look at these heat signatures. The plasma temperatures being reported approach the threshold where molecular bonds begin breaking down. And the weight training 40 tons of resistance is beyond what any Pokemon physiology should handle. Gary studied the data with growing amazement. If these readings are accurate, Ash isn't just training his Pokemon, he's fundamentally altering their physical capabilities at the cellular level. Exactly. And while the results are remarkable, the long-term effects are completely unknown. Oak's voice carried the weight of scientific responsibility. I need to see this firsthand. Prepare for a field research expedition. You're going to track down Ash personally. Someone needs to ensure that brilliance doesn't become tragedy, Oak replied solemnly. Chapter 24 The Progression Battles. Their second major encounter came 5 days later, when a group of 3 experienced trainers challenged them simultaneously. We've heard the stories, their leader announced. One trainer, impossible results, methods that sound too extreme to believe. We're here to test the reality. These weren't novice trainers or casual challengers. Their Pokemon showed the conditioning of serious competitive battlers, a Machamp, a Primeape, and a Hitmonlee, all fighting types chosen specifically to test Charmeleon's rumored strength. Same restrictions as before, Ash told Charmeleon. Weights on, no speed enhancement, no technique combinations. Show them what pure conditioning can achieve. The triple battle that followed was less a contest than a demonstration of impossible physical development. Charmeleon moved through his opponents like they were training dummies, his pure strength overwhelming their technical skills. When Machamp attempted its legendary four-armed grapple, Charmeleon broke the hold with casual ease, then proceeded to lift all 4 arms and the entire Pokemon over his head with one clawed hand. Primeape's fury-enhanced strikes, capable of shattering boulders, barely registered as Charmeleon absorbed the impacts and retaliated with precise, measured blows that sent the fighting type flying. Hitmonlee's lightning-fast kicks found their target, but couldn't penetrate the incredible muscle density that 40 tons of weight training had developed. Each strike seemed to hurt Hitmonlee more than Charmeleon. This isn't possible, one of the trainers whispered as all 3 of his fighting-type specialists lay unconscious. Fighting types are supposed to be the ultimate physical combatants. How is a fire type stronger than all of them combined? Because we don't accept supposed to be as a limitation, Ash replied, helping Charmeleon remove his training weights for the healing session. The moment the weights came off, Charmeleon's movements became fluid and graceful again, demonstrating just how much resistance he'd been fighting through. The weight differential. Another trainer calculated aloud. He was fighting at less than half his potential speed and strength, and still dominated completely. As news of this battle spread, the trainer networks began buzzing with a new term, the Ketchum method. No one knew exactly what it entailed, but the results were becoming impossible to ignore. Chapter 25 Plasma Breakthrough. 2 weeks into their journey toward Cerulean City, Charmeleon achieved the breakthrough Ash had been pushing toward. During their morning training session, he managed to create a fireball that burned blue-white at its core, true plasma formation. Now compress it, Ash instructed, his voice tense with anticipation. What followed was the most dangerous technique they'd ever attempted. Charmeleon slowly began reducing the size of the plasma ball while maintaining its incredible temperature. The air around them became superheated, forcing everyone to retreat to a safe distance. 10 feet diameter. 8 feet. 5 feet. At 3 feet diameter, the plasma ball began to destabilize, energy crackling wildly as it fought against compression. But Charmeleon held his focus, his 4-technique integration providing the precise control needed to contain forces that should have been impossible to manage. 2 feet. 18 inches. 1 foot. When the plasma compressed to basketball size, Ash called for the test firing. Target, that cliff face. Maximum range, controlled implosion. The plasma ball shot forward with a sound like tearing reality. When it struck the cliff 200 yards away, the implosion was visible from miles away, a brief, brilliant star that left a perfectly spherical crater 30 feet in diameter, the rock not shattered but vaporized to molecular dust. Dear Arceus, Brock whispered, staring at the destruction, That's not a Pokemon attack, that's a weapon of mass destruction. And he did it while carrying 40 tons and maintaining 4 other techniques simultaneously, Misty added, her voice barely audible. Ash looked at the crater with grim satisfaction. We're calling this technique Plasma Bomb. And it stays secret unless we face a life or death situation. Chapter 26 Champion Interest. The plasma demonstration had been witnessed by a high-altitude research drone, and within hours, the footage was being analyzed at the highest levels of the Pokemon League. This changes everything, Champion Cynthia announced to her gathered Elite Four during an emergency video conference. The energy output calculations suggest power levels that exceed most legendary Pokemon attacks. The precision control is what impresses me most, Steven Stone added from his position in home. Anyone can create a massive explosion. But controlling plasma formation and implosion with that level of accuracy? That's mastery of fundamental physics. Or it's incredibly dangerous experimentation that could result in catastrophic accidents, Lance countered. We need direct intervention before this escalates further. I disagree, Cynthia replied firmly. If this trainer has genuinely discovered revolutionary methods, attempting to stop him could set back Pokemon training advancement by decades. We observe, we learn, and we ensure safety, but we don't interfere with genuine breakthrough. The debate continued for hours, but the decision was unanimous: increased monitoring with prepared intervention protocols. Chapter 27 The Riolu Encounter. Their most significant encounter came during the third week of travel, when Ash's newly developing aura sensitivity led them to a forest clearing where a one-sided battle was taking place. The small, bipedal Riolu was clearly outmatched but fighting with incredible determination against 3 Team Rocket operatives. But these weren't the bumbling duo of Jesse and James, these were elite operatives with military precision and dangerous Pokemon. Cravat, Toxic Cloud Coverage. Executive Proton commanded. Mook, Sludge Bomb Containment Pattern. Magnezone, Thunder Wave Paralysis Field. The Riolu's aura flared desperately as it tried to maintain mobility against the coordinated assault, but it was clearly losing ground. That's when Ash felt it, a connection like touching lightning, but warm instead of painful. The Riolu's aura resonated with something deep in his own consciousness. Help me, a voice echoed in his mind, young and proud but tinged with desperation. I've never lost before. I don't understand how they can be so much stronger. Because you've been fighting alone, Ash responded through their newfound connection. Real strength comes from understanding your limits, then systematically destroying them. Team Rocket executive level, Ash announced, stepping into the clearing. This should be interesting. Charmeleon, demonstrate integration protocol 7. What followed was less a battle than a physics demonstration. Charmeleon, still weighted down with 40 tons, moved with controlled precision that made his earlier battles look like warm UPS. Executive Proton's Cravat attempted its signature speed blitz, only to find that Charmeleon's weighted movements still outpaced its flight patterns. A single Metal Claw strike, enhanced with all 4 techniques, didn't just defeat the Cravat, it created a sonic boom that shattered trees in a 50-foot radius. Impossible power levels, Proton whispered as his entire team fell in under 60 seconds. Those aren't Pokemon attacks, they're natural disasters with precise targeting. Next time, send someone who understands what they're facing, Ash replied calmly as the Team Rocket operatives fled in chaos. Chapter 28 A New Partnership. In the aftermath, Riolu approached with obvious awe, its aura still resonating with Ash's consciousness. I was wrong about everything, the mental voice admitted. I thought being the strongest in my territory meant I was truly strong. But watching your Charmeleon, there are levels of power I never imagined existed. Strength isn't about being the biggest fish in your pond, Ash explained gently. It's about constantly expanding the pond until there are no limits left to break. I want to learn that kind of strength, Riolu replied, its mental voice filled with fierce determination. Will you teach me what you taught him? Ash smiled, pulling out a Pokeball. Welcome to the team. But I should warn you, our training methods make most people think we're completely insane. Good, Rylul responded as the capture completed. I don't ever want to feel weak again. Chapter 29 Misty's Growing Anxiety. As they drew closer to Cerulean City, Ash began noticing subtle changes in Misty's behavior that his months of observational training made impossible to ignore. She'd grown quieter, her usual confidence cracking around the edges. During evening training sessions where Charmander pushed his plasma compression techniques while Rylul learned basic weight conditioning, Ash caught her staring toward Cerulean City's distant lights with barely concealed anxiety. You've been avoiding water-type training, he observed one evening after Charmander had successfully compressed a plasma ball to soccer ball size without losing stability. I've been helping with your training, she deflected quickly. There's been plenty to focus on. But Ash had learned to read micro-expressions and body language tells during his intensive training regimens. Misty's hands clenched whenever anyone mentioned Cerulean City. She changed subjects when Brock asked about her family. Most telling of all, she'd stopped talking about her own training goals entirely. Her emotional aura becomes chaotic whenever we discuss our destination, Rylul's mental voice confirmed during their private Auralink conversations. There's fear there, but not of physical danger. Something deeper. What aren't you telling us about Cerulean City? Ash asked directly during one of their rest stops. Misty's face went pale. Nothing. It's just home. You know how returning home can be complicated. But her deflection was too practiced, too smooth. This wasn't simple homesickness, this was someone dreading a confrontation they couldn't avoid much longer. Chapter 30 The status quo shattered. Their reputation had grown beyond anything Ash had anticipated. On their final approach to Cerulean City, they were intercepted by a woman in an expensive business suit with the bearing of serious authority. Karen, Elite 4 Dark-type Specialist, she announced without preamble. I've been authorized to observe your training methods firsthand and assess their compatibility with League standards. Ash studied her carefully. An Elite 4 member taking personal interest meant they'd attracted attention at the highest levels of competitive battling. I assume you'd like a demonstration, he said. Actually, I'd like to understand the theory behind your methods before observing practical application. Karen's tone was professionally neutral, but Ash could detect genuine curiosity underneath. The reports I've read describe results that challenge fundamental assumptions about Pokémon physiology and training limitations. For the next hour, Ash explained his methodologies in detail. The graduated weight progression. The constant technique maintenance training. The integration protocols that allowed multiple enhancements simultaneously. The plasma compression theory behind his fireball evolution. Karen listened with growing fascination and concern. The theoretical framework is sound, she admitted. But the practical implementation borders on dangerous. 40 tons of resistance training? Plasma formation? These aren't standard techniques, they're experimental physics. Standard techniques produce standard results, Ash replied simply. We're not interested in standard. Show me, Karen commanded. The demonstration that followed left the Elite 4 member speechless. Charmalander's integration of 4 separate techniques while carrying crushing weight, followed by a plasma compression display that left a perfectly spherical crater in a nearby hillside. This changes everything we understand about training possibilities, Karen whispered, her professional composure finally cracking. The power output calculations. You're operating beyond gym leader levels. Some of these techniques would challenge Elite 4 standards. And we're just getting started, Ash replied, already envisioning the next phase of their impossible progression. As Cerulean City's distinctive blue-tinted buildings came into view on the horizon, Misty's anxiety reached its peak. Her secret, whatever it was, couldn't remain hidden much longer. The road to the Indigo League continued, but Ash was beginning to understand that the greatest battles might not always be against opposing trainers. Sometimes they were against the limitations others tried to impose, the standards society accepted as immutable, and the fears that held people back from reaching their true potential. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new revelations, and the next phase of their journey toward redefining what was possible in the world of Pokémon training. Chapter 31 The Challenge Extended. Karen studied Ash with the calculating gaze of someone accustomed to evaluating threats and opportunities. The Elite Four member had witnessed demonstrations that challenged everything she thought she knew about Pokémon training, and now she faced a decision that could reshape the competitive landscape. "You're requesting 2 weeks to prepare?" she asked, her tone neutral but her dark eyes sharp with interest. Most trainers would either accept immediately or decline out of intimidation. Why delay? Ash adjusted his weighted training gear, the motion deliberate and controlled despite the crushing resistance. Because facing an Elite Four member isn't just another gym battle. If I'm going to demonstrate what our methods can achieve, I want to show you their full potential. He gestured toward Charmander, who stood in perfect balance despite his 40-ton load, his constantly active metal claw and quick attack enhancements creating subtle visual distortions around his form. Right now, we're still integrating new techniques. In 2 weeks, we'll be operating at a completely different level. Karen's expression shifted to something approaching anticipation. Ambitious. But I've seen overconfidence destroy promising trainers before. This isn't overconfidence, Ash replied with quiet certainty. It's calculated preparation. I know exactly what we need to accomplish in 14 days. Very well. Karen pulled out a high-tech communication device, its sleek design marking it as League-issued equipment. 2 weeks from today, sunset, at the official League training facility outside Cerulean City. Full exhibition match, no holding back, no restrictions. She paused, studying Ash's determined expression. But understand this, if your methods prove to be all spectacle and no substance, the League will take a very different interest in your activities. And if they prove revolutionary? Ash countered. Karen's smile was sharp as a blade. Then we'll have a conversation about the future of competitive Pokémon training. As the Elite Four member departed with her entourage of League officials, Misty's anxiety spiked visibly. They were approaching Cerulean City, her home where secrets she'd been avoiding would finally demand confrontation. 2 weeks, Brock mused, shouldering his pack. That's ambitious, even for your training methods. It's exactly what we need, Ash replied, his mind already racing through enhancement protocols and integration sequences. By the time we face Karen, our current techniques will seem basic in comparison. Chapter 32 Sanctuary and Secrets. The Cerulean City Pokémon Center stood like a beacon of familiar comfort after weeks on the road, its distinctive red roof and welcoming interior promising rest and recovery. Nurse Joy's expression brightened with professional satisfaction as she processed Charmander and Rylo's health examinations. "These conditioning readings are extraordinary," she announced, her Chansey assistant nodding emphatically beside the sophisticated medical equipment. Muscle density 30% above species average, reflexes enhanced beyond measurable parameters, and metabolic efficiency that suggests adaptation at the cellular level. She turned to Ash with genuine amazement. "Whatever training regimen you're using, it's producing results that challenge our understanding of Pokémon physiology. The stress indicators should be concerning with this level of intensity, but instead I'm seeing optimal health markers across every category." "Gradual progression and constant monitoring," Ash replied, though internally he was already calculating their next phase improvements. "Understanding your partner's limits means you can systematically expand them without causing damage." As they settled into their assigned rooms, the familiar comfort of proper beds and climate control felt almost luxurious after weeks of mountain camping. But Ash noticed Misty's continued anxiety, her movements restless as she unpacked her traveling gear. "Tomorrow we start Phase 7 of the weight progression," he announced to his team, pulling his training notebook from his pack. The worn cover bore the simple title Pokémon Journey in his childhood handwriting, its pages filled with years of planning and preparation. Charmander moves up to 60-ton full body load, Rylo graduates to 20 tons. Brock looked up from organizing his breeding supplies, expression thoughtful. The progression rate is accelerating. Are you sure it's safe to increase that dramatically? The weight isn't the limiting factor anymore, Ash explained, flipping through pages of detailed physiological notes. Their bodies have adapted to resistance training beyond normal parameters. The challenge now is technique integration at higher intensity levels. He sketched out training diagrams with practiced precision. Ryalu needs to achieve 4 techniques simultaneous maintenance while weighted. Charmander progresses to 6 technique integration with plasma compression stability. 6 techniques. Misty's voice carried a note of disbelief that temporarily overrode her personal anxieties. That's not training, that's asking his brain to perform mathematical equations while running a marathon in a hurricane. Exactly, Ash replied with satisfaction. Which is why it will give us an absolutely decisive advantage against conventional training methods. Chapter 33 Home and History. As evening settled over Cerulean City, the 3 traveling companions found themselves in the Pokémon Center's common area, sharing the kind of quiet conversation that came naturally after weeks of shared challenges. The space was comfortable and warm, with large windows overlooking the city's distinctive blue-tinted architecture. It's strange being back, Misty admitted finally, her gaze fixed on the distant glow of what Ash realized must be the Cerulean Gym. I thought I'd left all this behind when I decided to travel. Family dynamics can be complicated, Brock said with understanding born of experience. Trust me, I know something about that. He leaned back in his chair, expression growing distant. 9 younger siblings, all looking to me for guidance after Dad left to find himself. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice leaving them to pursue my own journey. You did, Ash said firmly. You can't help others grow if you're not growing yourself. Your siblings need to see what's possible when someone they respect pursues their dreams. Brock smiled gratefully. Forrest, the next oldest, has been handling gym duties well in my absence. But Yolanda, Tommy, Cindy, Susie. He counted on his fingers. Each one has their own dreams about Pokémon, their own potential waiting to be discovered. Sometimes I think my real calling isn't just breeding, it's understanding how to help people find their unique strengths. That's why you make such a good traveling companion, Misty observed. You see potential in everyone, not just their Pokémon. The conversation created a comfortable warmth that made the evening feel almost domestic. But Ash found himself growing quiet, his thoughts drifting toward memories he rarely allowed himself to examine. What about you, Ash? Brock asked gently. You've never mentioned your family beyond your mother. The question hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire. Ash's hand unconsciously moved to his training notebook, fingers tracing the worn cover where his 5-year-old handwriting still proclaimed Pokémon Journey in faded ink. My father. He began, then paused, searching for words that could encompass everything that shaped him. He died when I was 5. But before he did, he left me something that changed the entire direction of my life. Chapter 34 The Letter That Changed Everything. The memory struck like lightning, sudden, overwhelming, carrying the weight of years compressed into crystalline clarity. 5-year-old Ash sat cross-legged on his bedroom floor, the letter spread before him like a treasure map to an impossible future. His father's handwriting was careful, deliberate, as if every word had been chosen with scientific precision. My son, the letter began, by the time you read this, I'll be gone, but my dreams and discoveries will live on through you. The child's fingers traced each word, sounding them out with the careful attention his father had taught him to apply to everything important. All the scientific fields should be incredibly useful to a Pokémon trainer, Ash. Physics explains how energy moves through attacks. Chemistry reveals why type advantages exist. Biology shows us how Pokémon bodies adapt and evolve. But here's what most trainers never realize: there are gaps in our knowledge, massive blind spots that represent incredible opportunities. Young Ash had looked up from the letter to stare at his father's desk, still covered with research papers and half-finished equations, as if the man might materialize from his work to explain everything in person. These gaps exist because we barely understand how these creatures known as Pokemon do what they do. Take my Charizard, for example. The letter continued, and Ash could almost hear his father's voice, patient and encouraging as always. Why is the limit of how hot his fire can burn set to where it is? It makes no sense, because even at that temperature, it's hot enough to burn other fire types, even other Charizard. So why isn't my Charizard burning from the inside out? The question had puzzled 5-year-old Ash for weeks, leading him to Professor Oak with endless queries about internal fire resistance and thermal regulation. Here's my theory, the letter revealed. All Pokemon, every single species, can adapt to phenomena. It's just that they adapt to whatever their type represents better and faster. Fire types adapt to heat, water types to pressure and moisture, electric types to electrical current. But the adaptation potential exists across all categories if you know how to trigger it. The implications had made young Ash's mind race with possibilities that wouldn't fully crystallize until years later. I won't get a chance to prove this theory because some very dangerous men known as Team Rocket are after my research. I hope you use this knowledge to become the Pokemon master you've always dreamed of becoming. The mention of Team Rocket had made 5-year-old Ash look toward his bedroom door, suddenly afraid that dangerous men might appear at any moment. But his father's next words carried strength that overrode the fear. I have a selfish request, my son. My dream has always been to progress the field of Pokemon training to its absolute limit, then destroy that ceiling once I reach it, and do it over and over again. I would have been able to accomplish this if not for those very bad men stopping me. The weight of inherited dreams settled on small shoulders, but somehow it felt like wings instead of chains. So my request to you is, would you, in my stead, establish a training method that uses the knowledge I've given you? Help more people grow strong. My dream was always about our protectors growing stronger, and I've always seen the Pokemon trainer profession as more like the champions and guardians of this planet. The letter's tone grew darker, more urgent. You see, this universe is far larger than just us, Ash. In dimensions beyond our own, there exist creatures of such alien nature that they defy our understanding of what life should be. I've glimpsed them in my research, beings of pure energy that phase in and out of reality, insectoid nightmares that feed on light itself, crystalline entities that sing with voices that can shatter minds. Young Ash had shivered, imagining monsters beyond comprehension lurking in spaces between worlds. Some possess strength that makes legendary Pokemon seem weak by comparison. Others have abilities that violate the fundamental laws of physics as we understand them. If such creatures ever found their way to our world, the handwriting became more hurried. We would need champions capable of impossible things, trainers who had shattered every limitation we thought was absolute. The responsibility felt enormous, but also thrilling in a way that made 5-year-old Ash's heart race with anticipation. I hate myself for pushing my dreams and work onto you, but the safety of the world may depend on it, and I trust you, my son, more than anyone in this or any other cosmos. The final paragraph carried the gentleness that Ash remembered from bedtime stories and science lessons. One last bit of advice: remember that you are pushing your Pokemon to their limits and beyond, but they are intelligent, magnificent individuals. Treat them with respect, because it's a fine line between harsh training and cruelty. A good way to handle this is to put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, would I endure this pain? Take into account what your Pokemon's likes, dislikes, and goals are. This is why I recommend only starting intense training after you get to know your Pokemon well enough. The better you understand a Pokemon, the more you'll be able to push them safely. The letter was signed simply, your father, who loves you beyond measure and believes in your unlimited potential. No name. No signature that could be traced. But in the margin, drawn in the same careful hand, was a small sketch of a Charizard breathing flames that seemed to dance off the page with impossible heat. After reading the letter 17 times that first day, young Ash had carefully folded it, placed it in his desk drawer, and pulled out a fresh notebook. On the first page, in his most careful 5-year-old handwriting, he wrote, "Pokemon Journey." The years that followed became a blur of obsessive preparation. While other children played games and watched cartoons, Ash devoured textbooks on physics, chemistry, and biology, always searching for connections to Pokemon abilities. When concepts proved too advanced, Professor Oak had been delighted to explain, never questioning why a child showed such intense interest in scientific principles. Mathematics became a tool for understanding energy calculations. Biology revealed the secrets of adaptation and evolution. Chemistry explained type interactions at the molecular level. But it was psychology, specifically Pokemon psychology, a field so new it wasn't even taught in schools, that captured Ash's deepest fascination. His grades in core sciences soared beyond anything his teachers had seen, while subjects like geography and history suffered from his singular focus. But Ash didn't care about memorizing dates or mapping regions. He was mapping the future of Pokemon training itself. One evening, 3 years after receiving his father's letter, 8-year-old Ash sat at his desk with his journey notebook spread before him. At the top of a fresh page, he wrote, "The plan for the future." His strategy was methodical, ambitious, and utterly focused on his inherited mission. Phase 1. Begin his Pokemon journey and gain public attention through revolutionary results. Win his first league tournament using only 2 Pokemon, demonstrating that superior training methods could overcome conventional numerical advantages. Phase 2. Leverage his champion status to become a professor specializing in Pokemon training methodology. Use this position to conduct legitimate research while developing his father's theories. Phase 3. Capture and train only as many Pokemon as he could carry personally, 6 maximum, ensuring each one covered the other's weaknesses. Not just type matchups, but fundamental combat roles. If he caught a Snorlax, for example, its natural body structure would always favor strength over speed, so he'd need another team member with exceptional range and mobility to compensate. Phase 4. Establish a Pokemon training academy that would produce results far superior to all existing methods, spreading his father's discoveries through a new generation of trainers. Phase 5. Compete in additional regional leagues, each time demonstrating evolved techniques and pushing the boundaries of what people believed possible. The plan was audacious, potentially spanning decades, but 8-year-old Ash had felt only excitement as he mapped out his path to changing the world. Now, in the comfortable common area of Cerulean City's Pokemon Center, he closed the same notebook, its pages now filled with training data, technique progressions, and physiological observations that represented years of turning theory into reality. Chapter 35 Revelation and Resolve. "Your father sounds like he was an extraordinary man," Brock said softly after Ash finished sharing the edited version of his story, "the scientific foundation and training philosophy, but not the warnings about dimensional threats or the mysterious identity hinted at in that careful sketch of an impossibly powerful Charizard." "He was a researcher," Ash replied simply. "Someone who believed that understanding the why behind Pokemon abilities could revolutionize how we train them. Everything I've done, the weight training, the technique integration, the plasma compression, it's all built on his theories about adaptation potential." Misty studied him with new understanding. "That's why you push so hard. You're not just trying to be strong, you're trying to prove something." "I'm trying to make the world safer," Ash corrected gently. "By showing that limitations we accept as absolute are just challenges we haven't figured out how to overcome yet." The weight of inherited purpose settled around them like a comfortable blanket. Here, in this quiet moment, the mission didn't feel overwhelming, it felt like shared destiny among friends who understood the value of reaching beyond conventional boundaries. "Well," Brock said with a grin that lightened the serious mood, "if we're going to revolutionize Pokemon training, we'd better get some sleep. Tomorrow starts 2 weeks of preparation that will either make history or get us all classified as completely insane." "Why not both?" Misty asked with the first genuine smile she'd shown since reaching Cerulean City. As they headed toward their respective rooms, Ash felt the familiar surge of anticipation that always preceded major training intensification. Karen represented more than just another battle. She was the gateway to legitimizing methods that could change everything. 2 weeks to demonstrate that impossibility was just another limitation waiting to be shattered. Good night, they called to each other as doors closed and the Pokémon Center settled into quiet rest. But in his room, Ash remained awake for another hour, notebook open, planning weight progressions and technique integrations that would push every boundary they'd established. The real work was just beginning. A different beginning. Chapter 36 The Morning of Revelation. The pre-dawn darkness of Cerulean City was broken by the soft glow emanating from Ash's room at the Pokémon Center. He sat cross-legged on his bed, the familiar weight of his training notebook in his lap, its pages filled with calculations and diagrams that would have challenged graduate-level physics students. The morning light filtering through his window cast long shadows across equations detailing energy conversion rates and adaptation thresholds. Day 1 of Phase 7, he murmured to himself, reviewing his meticulously planned progression. His handwriting from the previous evening covered 3 full pages of preparation notes, each detail considered and reconsidered with the scientific precision his father's letter had instilled in him years ago. The weight of inherited purpose settled around him like a familiar cloak. Somewhere in the distance between sleep and waking, he could almost hear his father's voice. Remember that you are pushing your Pokémon to their limits and beyond, but they are intelligent, magnificent individuals. A soft knock interrupted his contemplation. Ash. Misty's voice carried through the door, unusually subdued for someone typically so energetic in the mornings. Are you awake? Brock's already up preparing training supplements. Come in, Ash replied, closing his notebook but keeping his finger marking the page of detailed weight progression charts. Misty entered, followed by Brock, who carried a tray of what appeared to be incredibly dense energy bars that seemed to shimmer with concentrated nutrition. Both his traveling companions looked simultaneously excited and apprehensive, the expression of people about to witness something unprecedented. These are my latest formulation, Brock explained, setting down the tray with obvious pride. Triple concentrated protein synthesis boosters, enhanced mineral absorption catalysts, and metabolic efficiency amplifiers. If your theories about cellular adaptation are correct, these should provide the nutritional foundation your Pokémon will need. Ash picked up one of the bars, noting its surprising weight despite its compact size. Impressive. The density suggests you've managed to compress nutrients at the molecular level. Exactly, Brock confirmed, his breeding expertise evident in his detailed explanation. Normal Pokémon supplements waste energy through inefficient absorption. These bypass conventional digestive limitations entirely, delivering nutrients directly to cellular structures that require enhancement. As they prepared to leave the Pokémon Center, Ash couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come since that first morning in Pallet Town. The memory struck him with startling clarity: Charmander's clumsy movements during basic speed drills, the simple joy of successfully completing a dash and tackle exercise, the proud smile on his partner's face after learning to maintain a basic ember while running. Has it really only been a few months since we left home? The question echoed in his mind as he shouldered his pack, now equipped with weights that would have been impossible for him to lift on that first day. It feels like years of growth, but the calendar says otherwise. Charmeleon emerged from his pokeball with the fluid grace that had become his trademark, immediately settling into perfect balance despite the crushing 40-ton load he'd grown accustomed to carrying. His constantly active metal claw and quick attack enhancements created subtle visual distortions around his form, heat shimmer from the metallic friction, speed trails that lasted just long enough to be perceived. But today, Ash noticed something different in his partner's eyes. The same determined intelligence had always been there, but now it carried depths of understanding that spoke to the incredible mental development that had accompanied their physical training. This wasn't just a stronger Charmander, this was a being who had transcended normal limitations through shared dedication and scientific methodology. Riolu materialized beside Charmeleon, his aura flickering with barely contained energy. The fighting type's adaptation to their training regimen had been remarkable. but Ash could see the hunger for more, the same drive that had led Rylo to seek them out after witnessing their battle with Team Rocket executives. Today we find out just how far adaptation can go, Ash thought as they made their way through Cerulean City's quiet streets toward their designated training area. The weight of impossibility. The training ground Nurse Joy had recommended lay 5 miles outside Cerulean City, in a region so desolate it seemed designed by nature for destructive testing. Rocky terrain stretched for miles in every direction, with geological formations that suggested ancient volcanic activity perfect for containing energy releases that might otherwise threaten populated areas. As they approached the designated coordinates, Ash felt the familiar surge of anticipation that always preceded major training intensification. But this time, there was something more, an awareness that today's session would either validate years of theoretical work or force him to reconsider everything he thought he understood about Pokemon physiology. Charmeleon, he announced, his voice carrying the authority of countless training sessions, today we revolutionize energy control. But first, we upgrade your physical conditioning to match your expanding capabilities. He reached into his specially reinforced equipment bag and withdrew the new weight system metallic casings that seemed to bend light around them, their surfaces inscribed with microscopic adjustment mechanisms that spoke to incredible engineering precision. 100 tons total load, Ash explained as he began the painstaking process of securing the crushing resistance to his partner's limbs and torso. Each weight required his full effort to position, his muscles straining visibly despite his own enhanced conditioning. But this time, we're doing something different. Instead of maintaining techniques while weighted, you're going to generate fire externally. Charmeleon's eyes widened with interest as the full weight settled onto his frame. For a moment, his knees buckled slightly as his body registered the doubled resistance, but within seconds he'd adjusted his stance and balance to accommodate the new load. I want you to create flames in front of your palms, Ash continued, demonstrating the hand positioning with his own weighted limbs. Not internal combustion like normal ember attacks, external manipulation of fire energy. Think of it as sculpting flame the way an artist sculpts clay. The theory was sound, based on years of studying energy projection mechanics. If Charmeleon could learn to manipulate fire outside his body, it would represent a fundamental advancement in technique control, the difference between a painter using a brush and a painter using their hands directly on the canvas. Chansey, Ash called to his healer, I need constant regeneration for what we're about to attempt. This level of energy manipulation while carrying this weight will push cellular function beyond normal limits. The science of adaptation. What followed was a master class in applied Pokemon physiology. Charmeleon stood in perfect balance despite his crushing load, his constantly enhanced metal claws creating microscopic adjustment points as he fought to maintain stability. His quick attack enhancement, normally used for movement, now served to accelerate the micro-corrections needed to prevent toppling under the extreme weight. Focus on the space in front of your palms, Ash coached, his own weighted movements deliberate and controlled. Feel the air temperature, humidity, molecular density. Fire isn't just combustion, it's energy interacting with matter at the fundamental level. Charmeleon's first attempts produced nothing more than warm air currents, his efforts to externalize flame generation meeting resistance from physiological systems designed for internal combustion. But Ash had expected this breakthrough required persistence through initial failure. Chansey, continuous healing protocol, he instructed as sweat began beading on Charmeleon's scales from the effort. Focus on cellular energy recovery and neural pathway optimization. The pink healer's heal pulse glowed constantly around Charmeleon, her healing energy maintaining optimal physical function as her patient pushed beyond conventional limitations. It was during this sustained healing that Ash noticed the first signs of something extraordinary happening. Charmeleon's breathing had become deeper, more controlled, as if his respiratory system was adapting to the demands being placed on it. His muscle tone was shifting subtly, fibers reorganizing themselves for maximum efficiency under crushing weight. Most tellingly, his flame generation was becoming more effortless despite the external focus requirement. It's working, Ash whispered to himself, recognizing the signs his father's research had predicted. The healing is accelerating natural adaptation processes. After 2 hours of sustained effort, the breakthrough came suddenly and dramatically. A small flame flickered to life 6 inches in front of Charmeleon's right palm, not projected from his mouth, but generated entirely through external energy manipulation. Perfect! Ash exclaimed, his own excitement overriding the exhaustion from his weighted conditioning. Now maintain that while adding the other techniques back into the matrix. The bulk-up revolution. What came next represented the true test of adaptation theory. As Charmeleon worked to maintain his external flame generation while weighted, Ash introduced the technique that would either validate everything or prove him catastrophically wrong. Bulk up, he commanded. Maximum intensity, maximum duration. The fighting type move had never been part of Charmeleon's natural move pool, but months of cross-type technique training had established the neural pathways needed for execution. The fire type's muscles swelled as the enhancement took hold, his already impressive physique gaining additional definition and power. Now agility, Ash continued. Same parameters: maximum intensity, sustained activation. Speed enhancement layered over strength enhancement, while Charmeleon maintained external flame generation and constant technique integration, all while carrying 100 tons of resistance. It should have been impossible. By every conventional understanding of Pokémon physiology, the energy requirements alone should have caused immediate collapse. Instead, something unprecedented happened. Chansey, analysis, Ash called urgently as he noticed Charmeleon's energy readings stabilizing rather than declining. What are you seeing in terms of cellular function? The healer's response through their empathic connection was filled with amazement. The constant healing was interacting with the extreme stress of multiple technique maintenance to trigger adaptation at the genetic level. Charmeleon's cells were literally rewriting their energy efficiency protocols in real time. Hours passed in this state, Charmeleon maintaining bulk up, agility, external flame generation, constant metal claw enhancement, permanent quick attack acceleration, and perfect balance under crushing weight, all while Chansey provided continuous cellular regeneration. Then, as afternoon shadows began lengthening, the moment Ash had theorized but never dared hope for actually occurred. When the formal technique activations ended, the effects didn't fade. Run diagnostics, Ash breathed, barely believing what his trained observational skills were telling him. Physical strength, speed enhancement, energy efficiency, check every parameter. The results were revolutionary. Charmeleon had retained the muscular enhancement from bulk up and the speed increase from agility as permanent physical improvements. The techniques hadn't just temporarily boosted his capabilities, they triggered adaptive evolution at the cellular level. The healing energy, Ash realized aloud, his father's theoretical framework suddenly crystallizing into practical understanding. It's not just repairing tissue damage from the extreme stress, it's optimizing the repair process to incorporate the enhanced states as new baseline conditions. By late afternoon, Charmeleon was moving with fluid grace that made his crushing weight load appear effortless. The 100 tons that had challenged him that morning now seemed like casual exercise weights. His external flame generation had stabilized into perfect control, producing fires of any size or shape at will. Railou's parallel path. While Charmeleon underwent his revolutionary conditioning, Railou faced his own version of the adaptation protocol. The fighting type's smaller frame couldn't handle the same weight loads, but the intensity of his training matched Charmeleon's in every other respect. 10 tons total resistance, Ash announced as he secured the specially designed weights to Railou's compact form. But the same cellular adaptation protocol, bulk up and agility, maintained simultaneously while Chansey provides continuous regeneration. Railou's natural affinity for fighting type techniques made the initial execution easier than Charmeleon's cross-type efforts had been. Within hours, he was maintaining both enhancements while learning to keep quick attack and metal claw active as constant baseline conditions. Aura sphere formation, Ash instructed as the sun began setting. But instead of normal energy projection, I want you to shape the aura into perfect geometric forms. Spheres, cubes, pyramids, precise mathematical shapes that demonstrate complete energy control. The fighting type's natural aura abilities, enhanced by the same adaptation process that was revolutionizing Charmeleon's capabilities, produced results that defied conventional understanding of energy manipulation. By evening, Ryolul was creating complex aura sculptures while maintaining multiple technique enhancements and perfect balance under crushing weight. When the day's formal training concluded, Ryolul retained his enhanced strength and speed as permanent improvements, just as Charmeleon had. The 10-ton load that had initially challenged him now felt like decorative accessories. The unforeseen limitation. As they prepared to return to the Pokémon Center for evening recovery, Ash noticed something that forced an immediate recalculation of his training schedule. Chansey, despite her incredible dedication and stamina development, showed clear signs of approaching her limits. The pink healer's usually bright demeanor had dimmed to focused exhaustion. Her healing energy, while still flowing steadily, lacked the brilliant intensity that had characterized her morning performance. Most concerning, her empathic connection with both patients had become strained as her energy reserves approached depletion. "We can't maintain this intensity without support," Ash admitted, his scientific honesty overriding his desire to push forward regardless of obstacles. Chansey's healing capacity, while impressive, isn't unlimited. The realization required immediate adaptation of his carefully planned progression schedule. But as they walked back through Cerulean City's evening-lit streets, Ash found himself formulating a solution that could address the limitation while advancing other aspects of their development. Nurse Joy's proposition. The Pokémon Center's lobby was quiet when they arrived, most casual trainers having settled in for evening meals and rest. But Nurse Joy was waiting for them with the alert attention of a medical professional who'd been anticipating their return. "The energy readings we detected from your training area were unprecedented," she announced without preamble, her usually cheerful demeanor replaced by intense professional curiosity. "Whatever you're doing with your Chansey, it's producing healing energy signatures that challenge our understanding of the technique's limitations." Ash studied her expression, noting the mixture of concern and fascination that characterized most reactions to his training methods. "We're exploring enhanced application protocols," he replied carefully. "But we've reached a bottleneck that requires consultation with medical expertise. I'd like to propose a collaboration," Nurse Joy continued, her voice carrying the weight of careful consideration. "I'll provide advanced training for your Chansey in energy efficiency and diagnostic precision, plus support from my own Chansey during intensive healing sessions. In exchange..." She paused, meeting Ash's eyes directly. "I want to observe your complete training methodology. Every technique, every progression, every theoretical foundation. The medical applications alone could revolutionize Pokémon healthcare." The request hung in the air like a challenge waiting to be accepted or declined. Ash felt the weight of decision revealing his methods would end the mystery that had grown around his training, but it could also accelerate the spread of techniques that might be needed sooner than anyone anticipated. His father's words echoed in his mind, "Help more people grow strong. My dream was always about our protectors growing stronger." "Accepted," he said finally. "But I should warn you, what you'll see tomorrow will challenge everything you think you know about Pokémon physiology." As they finalized arrangements for the expanded training session, Ash couldn't shake the feeling that they were approaching a crucial turning point. The methods that had begun as personal preparation for an inherited mission were about to become something larger, the foundation for a new understanding of what Pokémon could achieve through scientific training methodology. The mystery was never the goal, he realized with sudden clarity. But now that it exists, it might be exactly what we need to change the world. Chapter 37, The Day of Transformation. Dawn arrived with the crisp promise of breakthrough. Ash stood at his window watching the sunrise paint Cerulean City in shades of gold and orange, his training notebook open to pages covered with calculations that had kept him awake until nearly midnight. The equations sprawling across multiple pages represented more than just training progressions, they were the mathematical foundation for proving his father's most ambitious theories about Pokémon adaptation. The knock on his door came precisely at the arranged time, accompanied by Nurse Joy's professionally cheerful voice. "Ready for day 2 of your training collaboration." As they gathered in the Pokémon Center's lobby, Ash noticed the careful way Nurse Joy had prepared for their expedition. Her medical kit was expanded far beyond normal protocols, filled with monitoring equipment that suggested she intended to document everything they were about to attempt. Her Chansey stood beside her with the alert posture of a medical professional preparing for intensive treatment. "The area I've selected is 15 miles southeast of the city," Nurse Joy explained as they made their way through the quiet morning streets. "Complete isolation for 50 miles in any direction, geological stability that can handle massive energy releases, and proximity to underground spring systems that provide natural cooling if needed." The location proved even more suitable than Ash had hoped. The training ground was a natural amphitheater carved from ancient volcanic rock, its walls scarred by geological forces that spoke to the incredible energies the Earth itself could contain. Perfect for testing the limits of what their enhanced training methods could achieve. "Before we begin," Ash announced as they established their base camp in the center of the formation, "I need to explain exactly what we're attempting today." He withdrew his training notebook, its worn cover bearing the simple title Pokémon Journey in his childhood handwriting, a reminder of how far they'd traveled from those first tentative steps in Pallet Town. "Yesterday proved that Pokémon can adapt to sustained stress in ways that make temporary enhancements permanent," he continued, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd spent years developing theoretical frameworks. "Today, we're going to push that adaptation to its absolute limits. The Energy Storage Protocol. Chansey," Ash addressed his healer directly, "I need you to expel every bit of healing energy you can generate into a concentrated field above us. Don't hold anything back. Complete energy discharge." The pink Pokémon nodded with understanding, born of months of intensive collaboration. What followed was a spectacle that left even Nurse Joy speechless with amazement. Chansey raised both hands skyward, her entire body glowing with healing energy that grew brighter and more intense with each passing second. The air above them began to shimmer as concentrated healing power gathered into a visible manifestation, a swirling sphere of green-white light that pulsed with life-giving energy. "Incredible," Nurse Joy whispered, her professional composure cracking as she witnessed energy manipulation that exceeded anything in medical literature. "The concentration levels, how is she containing that much power in such a small space?" "Months of progressive training," Ash replied, though his attention remained focused on the growing energy sphere. "Just like weight training builds physical strength, energy training builds manipulation capabilities." As Chansey continued her discharge, the healing sphere expanded to nearly 20 feet in diameter, its light bright enough to cast distinct shadows even in the morning sunlight. The air itself seemed to vibrate with contained power, creating harmonics that resonated through the stone amphitheater. Then, with a sound like a deep sigh, Chansey collapsed as her energy reserves reached complete depletion. "Now comes the critical part," Ash explained to Nurse Joy as he knelt beside his unconscious partner. "While she recovers, your Chansey needs to maintain that energy field without letting it disperse or lose potency." Nurse Joy's Chansey stepped forward with the practiced competence of a medical professional, her healing abilities immediately engaging to stabilize the massive energy construct. The complexity of maintaining such a concentration while preventing energy loss, she murmured. "It requires understanding of advanced energy manipulation that most healing specialists never develop." The theory behind the method. As Ash's Chansey lay unconscious, recovering from her complete energy discharge, Ash took the opportunity to explain the theoretical framework behind what they were attempting. "Normal healing floods the entire body with regenerative energy," he began, sketching diagrams in his notebook to illustrate the concept. "It's inefficient, wasteful, and provides only temporary benefits. But if you can store concentrated healing energy directly within cellular structures..." He showed Nurse Joy the calculations he'd developed, equations that described energy distribution at the molecular level. "The healing becomes part of the organism's basic function, not just repair enhancement." "You're talking about triggered evolution," Nurse Joy breathed, understanding the implications immediately. Not natural evolution through experience, but forced adaptation through controlled environmental pressure. Exactly, Ash confirmed. And the proof is what happened yesterday: permanent retention of technique enhancements that should have been temporary. Bulk up and agility integrated into basic physiology through sustained stress and concentrated healing. As they talked, Brock worked with focused intensity to prepare what he called evolution nutrition energy supplements so concentrated they seemed to glow with their own light. If we're triggering cellular adaptation, he explained, the nutritional foundation needs to match the energy demands. Meanwhile, Misty found herself struggling with the enormity of what she was witnessing. Her experience as a water-type specialist had given her a solid understanding of Pokémon capabilities, but this was beyond anything conventional training produced. The power levels you're describing, she said quietly, they're not just advanced, they're completely outside normal parameters. Are we sure this is safe? Ash met her concerned gaze directly. Safety isn't about avoiding risk, he replied gently. It's about understanding risk well enough to manage it effectively. Everything we're doing is based on careful observation and gradual progression. The Cellular Enhancement Protocol. When Ash's Chansey woke an hour later, she found herself surrounded by the concentrated attention of multiple healing specialists. Nurse Joy had spent the recovery time explaining advanced energy manipulation techniques, while her own Chansey had maintained the massive healing energy sphere with increasing sophistication. Now comes the real innovation, Ash announced as Chansey rose to her feet, visibly refreshed from her deep energy recovery. Instead of broad-spectrum healing, I want you to store concentrated healing energy directly in Charmeleon's and Riolu's cellular structures. The theory was ambitious beyond anything attempted in conventional Pokémon medicine. Rather than healing injuries after they occurred, the stored energy would prevent injuries from forming while simultaneously triggering adaptive improvements in cellular function. Begin with Charmeleon, Ash instructed. But before you start, I need to increase the training load to provide adequate stress for the adaptation protocol. He reached for the newest weight system metallic casings that seemed to bend reality around them, their surfaces inscribed with adjustment mechanisms that spoke to incredible engineering precision. 200 tons total resistance, he announced, his own muscles straining as he secured the massive load to Charmeleon's frame. Double yesterday's maximum, but with your enhanced strength base, it should be manageable. Charmeleon accepted the weight with the calm confidence of someone who transcended normal limitations. The 200-ton load that would have crushed him weeks ago now settled onto his enhanced frame like familiar training equipment. For Riolu, 20 tons, Ash continued, and 5 tons additional load for myself. As the crushing weights settled into place, Chansey began the most complex healing protocol ever attempted. Instead of external energy projection, she was placing healing energy directly into individual cells, programming them for continuous regeneration and enhancement. The effect was immediate and stunning. Both Charmeleon and Riolu began glowing with internal light as their cellular structures adapted to accommodate the stored energy. What started as temporary enhancement rapidly became permanent improvement as their bodies learned to generate healing energy naturally. Remarkable, Nurse Joy whispered, monitoring the process with professional amazement. They're developing healing factors that exceed natural regeneration by orders of magnitude. The speed of light. With their cellular healing factors established, Ash introduced the training protocol that would push their adaptation to absolute limits. Bulk up and agility, he commanded, maintained continuously while performing endurance conditioning. What followed redefined the boundaries of what Pokémon physiology could achieve. Charmeleon and Riolu, their bodies now generating healing energy at the cellular level, began layering enhancement techniques that stacked upon each other in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Each activation of bulk up didn't just temporarily increase strength, it triggered permanent muscular improvement that remained active even after the technique ended. Every use of agility didn't just provide speed enhancement, it fundamentally rewrote their nervous systems for faster reaction times and more efficient movement. Hour after hour, they maintained multiple enhancements while carrying crushing weight loads, their cellular healing factors preventing fatigue while accelerating adaptation beyond anything previously documented. The speed increase is exponential, Brock observed, watching Ryolo's movement patterns with growing amazement. Each agility activation is building on the previous permanent improvements. By midday, the transformation was visible to the naked eye. Charmeleon's movements had become so fast that he appeared to teleport rather than run, his form blurring between positions with speed that challenged visual perception. From his perspective, the world had slowed to near stillness. Even flying types would appear frozen in space to his enhanced time perception. Ryolo's development followed a similar pattern. His compact frame moving with speed that defied physics. The 20-ton load that had challenged him that morning now felt like decorative accessories as his permanently enhanced strength made the resistance effectively meaningless. The Fire Sculptor. With their physical enhancement established, Ash turned attention to the advanced technique training that would demonstrate complete mastery over elemental forces. Fire Shape Control, he announced to Charmeleon, who stood balanced perfectly despite his massive weight load. I want you to create fire constructs, not just flames, but organized structures made from controlled combustion. The theory drew from advanced physics concepts about energy manipulation and molecular organization. Fire wasn't just combustion, it was organized energy interacting with matter at the fundamental level. With sufficient control, that energy could be shaped into any form imagination could conceive. Charmeleon's first attempts produced simple geometric shapes, perfect spheres of controlled flame that maintained their form despite air currents and gravitational effects. But as his enhanced cellular functions adapted to the energy manipulation requirements, the constructs became increasingly complex. Fire dragons that moved with lifelike grace. Flame sculptures that demonstrated artistic mastery. Energy constructs that served functional purposes, fire hammers that could shape metal, flame lenses that could focus light with laser precision. Complete elemental mastery, Ash noted with satisfaction, documenting the progression in his training notebook. Energy manipulation that goes beyond simple projection into true construction. The end of limitations. As the second day of revolutionary training concluded, the results exceeded even Ash's ambitious expectations. The weight loads that had challenged his team that morning, 200 tons for Charmeleon, 20 tons for Ryolo, now required immediate upgrading as their enhanced strength made the resistance meaningless. 400 tons for Charmeleon, Ash announced as he secured the newest weight system, and 40 tons for Ryolo. Their adaptation rate is accelerating beyond my calculations. But the most significant development was Chansey's transformation. The healing specialist, through constant interaction with extreme training demands and guidance from Nurse Joy's expertise, had evolved her energy manipulation to unprecedented levels. She can heal indefinitely without energy depletion, Ash observed with amazement. Her cellular adaptation has made healing energy generation more efficient than energy expenditure. Nurse Joy confirmed the assessment with professional precision. Her diagnostic capabilities now exceed specialized medical equipment, and her energy efficiency suggests she could maintain healing protocols continuously without rest. As they prepared to return to Cerulean City, the transformation in all three of Ash's team members was evident. They moved with fluid grace that made their crushing weight loads appear effortless. Their technique integration was so complete that enhancement abilities functioned as natural baseline conditions. Most remarkably, their cellular healing factors had made them essentially immune to training fatigue. Tomorrow we can increase intensity without concern for recovery limitations, Ash noted in his training log. The foundation is established for true unlimited progression. The observers report. Unknown to the training group, their 2 days of revolutionary development had not gone unnoticed. From concealed positions throughout the surrounding terrain, elite monitoring equipment had documented every aspect of their breakthrough sessions. Karen, Elite 4 Dark-type specialist, reviewed the accumulated data with growing amazement as she prepared her report for champion-level review. Day 1 observations, she began her encrypted communication to Lance, confirm training methods that challenge fundamental assumptions about Pokémon physiology. Subject achieved permanent retention of temporary technique enhancements through sustained cellular stress and healing energy manipulation. She scrolled through energy readings that defied conventional understanding. Strength and speed improvements that should fade after technique deactivation are instead integrated into baseline physical capabilities. The implications for competitive battling are unprecedented. The second day's documentation was even more extraordinary. Day 2 progression, subjects now carrying weight loads that exceed the body mass of multiple Snorlax combined, while maintaining energy manipulation techniques that approach legendary level intensity. Cellular healing factors established through direct energy storage protocol. But it was the speed measurements that truly challenged belief. Velocity calculations indicate movement speeds approaching teleportation threshold. Subject Charmeleon's combat speed now exceeds measurement capabilities of our monitoring equipment. Karen paused in her report preparation, staring at readings that seemed to describe creatures operating beyond the normal laws of physics. Additional notes, she continued, the training methodology demonstrates clear scientific foundation rather than reckless experimentation. Every progression follows logical development from established base capabilities. The trainer's understanding of Pokémon physiology appears to exceed graduate-level education standards. Champion Council Emergency Session. The report triggered immediate response at the highest levels of Pokémon League authority. Within hours of Karen's transmission, an emergency Champion Council session was convened by a secure video conference. Gentlemen, Lance began, his expression grave as he reviewed the documentation, we're facing a situation that could fundamentally alter competitive Pokémon training. The power levels described in these reports approach legendary class capabilities. Stephen Stone leaned forward in his home-based conference room, studying energy output calculations with professional fascination. The plasma generation alone represents breakthrough in fire-type technique development. But combined with the speed and strength enhancements, we're looking at a single trainer whose team could potentially challenge Elite Four operations, Cynthia concluded from her Sinnoh Champion facilities. Not through experience or strategy, but through raw capability advancement. The implications hung heavy in the conference room atmosphere. A training methodology that could produce such results would revolutionize not just competitive battling, but potentially the entire relationship between humans and Pokémon. The concerning element, Wallace added from his home gym leader position, is the escalation pattern. Each day shows exponential rather than linear improvement. Where does this progression end? Lance stood and walked to his window overlooking Indigo Plateau, where the most skilled trainers in Kanto gathered to test their abilities. Perhaps the question isn't where it ends, he said quietly. Perhaps the question is whether we're ready for what comes next. In the growing twilight outside Cerulean City, Ash sat by his window reviewing 2 days of revolutionary progress while his enhanced team rested in preparation for tomorrow's even more ambitious training session. The notebook in his lap was filled with data that would reshape competitive Pokémon training forever. But in the quiet moments before sleep, his thoughts drifted to that first morning in Pallet Town when Charmander had struggled to complete simple speed drills. It hasn't been very long since we left home, he reflected, but it sure feels like we've traveled across lifetimes of growth. The road to the Indigo League stretched ahead, but now it led toward something greater than championship, toward a future where the impossible became merely the starting point for what dedicated training could achieve. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any suggestion on what ifs you would like to see, tell me in the comments.